Savvy Business Radio, drawing out the best from our guests with our host, Christina Nichman.
Our guest today is Sam Kleiner, a historian and lawyer based in New York City. Kleiner holds a doctorate in international relations from the University of Oxford, England, where he was the Marshall Scholar, and a JD from Yale Law School. Today he shares his latest work and book, The Flying Tigers, the untold story of the American pilots who waged a secret war against Japan. Find out more and get your own copy of this important book today at theflyingtigersbook.com. Hi, Sam. Welcome to Savvy Business Radio, our 7th annual aviation month. We're so blessed to have you here today. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me on.
Oh, you betcha. I mean, this is our 7th annual aviation month, as I said earlier before we even got started. And we've had a number of wonderful people, aviators around the world, World War II pilots. But you've written a wonderful book that is talking about the Flying Tigers. It's called The Flying Tigers, the Untold Story of the American Pilots Who Waged a Secret War Against Japan. Not a lot of people know that story. You're going to share that in your book and share a little bit of the juicy details here today. Not too much, because we want people to get excited and go get that book today. But share a little bit of the backstory. What brought you to writing this wonderful book?
Thanks so much for having me on again. My grandfather was a navigator in World War II on a B-25, and so I just kind of always grew up with this interest in World War II and was really thrilled to have the opportunity to write this book. It's really just an incredible untold story from World War II about these American pilots who were secretly in before Pearl Harbor.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So were they kind of having a clue that there was a problem on that front, and the government and our troops were working on things behind the scenes to hopefully not have it go somewhere drastic?
Yeah, well, it was really a secret mission authorized by the Roosevelt administration to send over pilots to help China, who were already fighting in World War II, even before Pearl Harbor. So that combat had been going on really since 1937. And the Flying Tigers were originally known as the American Volunteer Group, which was a unit that was set up in 1940, 1941 to go and help the Allies. So it's just one of these fascinating stories from World War II that no one had really dug into before and wanted to share that with the public.
Wow. So this was a special operation, a special crew put together for this special task to oversee this. Now, I found it quite interesting, Sam, that you had actually gone to Oxford and completed a doctorate on international relations, on how the president comes to making war decisions and when it's a good time to go to war, which I thought was very interesting. But then later on, while at Yale, you stumbled across a collection of love letters between a nurse and a Flying Tiger pilot, which I thought was fascinating. Is this kind of what just drew you into the whole story of the Flying Tigers?
Yeah, this was a kind of a story that I found very interesting on a personal level when I found a collection of love letters that were in a archive at Yale. And so it was a collection of love letters between a nurse and a pilot in the unit, and I really wanted to capture what was so fascinating about that, and thought that there was really a book here that needed to be told, because a lot of people might be familiar with the image of the Flying Tigers plane, but no one had really written about who these men and women in the unit actually were.
And now there were women in the unit as well that were pilots or served as a support?
There were a couple of nurses in the unit, and so that's who I was writing about, who were part of this unit. So you just have a whole host of different interesting stories that were in there. So it's really an amazing story, and it's been really great to be able to tell that.
Mm-hmm. And I thought it was really awesome that the families were mostly really on board with helping you get the materials and see flight records and stuff like that to get a real handle, and helping you write the book. And the last surviving Flying Tiger, you got to speak with him and interview him, correct?
Yeah, I've gotten to become very close with the last surviving Tiger. Has become a very close friend over the course of writing this book. So it's been really great to be able to do that, and really wonderful to be able to share that experience with him, and to have the chance to connect with someone who was still living from this experience.
Yeah. And his name's Frank. How do you say his last name? I didn't want to mess it up.
His last name is Lozonsky. So he's now the last surviving tiger.
That must have been fascinating to sit down with him and just hear his side of the story because he was there living it. What awe-inspiring takeaways did you get speaking with him?
Well, it was really inspiring just to hear, their kind of can-do attitude approaching this whole journey, and they were really determined to make a difference. And these were generally young guys who were, had a lot of opportunities to see the world through this experience. And so, it was really incredible to go see him. And I just was down with him a few weeks ago talking about the chance to connect and to have the opportunity to share his story, which has been really a remarkable part of this whole journey.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure it was. I mean, we interviewed here on Savvy. It was such a pleasure to interview someone from 4 years ago on our show for Aviation Month. He was a nose artist, does the nose artwork on the World War II planes. I think he did over 100 during World War II of the nose art. And you don't think, of the pictures on the side of the plane, but they were painted by someone, and he was an artist, and that was what he did during World War II. And so he still does that today on some of the airplanes, and he carried that when he entered into civilian life afterward, doing sign for businesses. But it was just fascinating hearing his story during World War II and what he went through as well. It's just amazing what these guys did for us.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really an incredible story, and it's a real pleasure to be able to tell it with others. And I think that people will really find a fascinating history here.
Yeah, I think they will.
It's something that I think we need to appreciate more. So it's, I'm really glad that you guys are celebrating Aviation Month and can share this with them. And listeners can check out more about the book at flyingtigersbook.com. And which has a lot more information and a lot of unpublished pictures. People can get it wherever books are sold, including on Amazon. So encourage you to check out the book. It's called The Flying Tigers.
Yeah, well, I thank you again, Sam, for coming to share this. Everyone, please go get The Flying Tigers today. We don't want to forget the story. Read it to your kids. We don't learn this in school. And sadly, at school, we don't learn much about World War II anymore. We're not learning about what our soldiers have done to keep us free in this country. So here's one book that you should demand that every school go get so that your kids are learning what's really going on with our history here. And we don't forget it. Least we forget, we repeat it. So again, Sam, I just have to thank you again for coming to share this very important book. And thank you for coming to Savvy Business Radio.
Thank you. Bye.
Savvy Business Radio broadcasts worldwide via a large podcast network, celebrating business owners, entrepreneurs, influencers, and successful individuals. Find out about our paid sponsorship opportunities or how to become a guest. Call 732-474-7375 or email Christina at SavvyBusinessRadio.com.